Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho.
Coming up, it's been 50 years since the United States Supreme Court ruled that everyone, no matter how poor they are, deserves an attorney when accused of a crime. Those lawyers are called public defenders. So how is the public defense system working today? I talk with a filmmaker who's made a documentary about the subject next. That's Dialogue. Stay tuned.
This is the way it really works. You go to jail. You're charged with an offense based upon what a police officer thinks you did. They set a bond, and if you're poor and you can't make the bond, you don't get out. So you sit, and you sit, and you sit.
Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Marcia Franklin. You were just watching a clip from Gideon's Army, a documentary that premiered on HBO on July 1st and is available on HBO Go and HBO On Demand. It follows several public defenders in the Deep South. The producer, Dawn Porter, was in Boise to talk about her film at events surrounding the 50th anniversary of Gideon versus Wainwright, the U.S. Supreme Court decision that guaranteed every American the right to an attorney. That decision was based on the case of Clarence Earl Gideon, who was accused of stealing from a pool hall in 1961. Gideon had to represent himself, being too poor to afford an attorney. A judge sentenced him to 5 years in prison, but while he was incarcerated, Gideon kept fighting for what he believed was his right to an attorney, ultimately appealing to the Supreme Court. The court agreed to hear his case, and in March 1963, it ruled that Gideon was entitled to free counsel. At his second trial, represented by an attorney, he was acquitted. The Gideon decision resulted in public defender systems in all states. But how well are those systems holding up? Not very well, says Porter, the filmmaker. I talk with her about what she learned while making her documentary and about her next film, Spies of Mississippi, which is slated to air on PBS. Well, first of all, welcome to Idaho. I understand it's your first time here.
It's my first time here, and it's really beautiful.
Idaho actually was one of the states that filed a friend of the court brief in Gideon all those years ago, which is intriguing to me.
I think that's fitting. I think that's fitting.
Let's talk a little bit about how this film came about, because like many stories, it was kind of a sidelong thing.
Mm-hmm.
You were an attorney working at A&E,
Yes.
and you wanted to start making documentaries.
I did.
And you had an idea for a different one,
Mm-hmm.
and presented it to the Ford Foundation. And
Well, so this is kind of what I did on my summer vacation. I was working at A&E, great job, direct deposit, healthcare, but I really wanted to tell some of the stories that I was interested in. And so I had a friend, a colleague who had begun working at the Ford Foundation, and I went to her and I pitched this film about the civil rights movement, and which would become Spies of Mississippi. And she said, great story, we're not really funding historical documentaries, but if you're looking for a documentary topic, I have a number of grantees doing incredible work. Maybe you'd like to meet one of them. So she introduced me to John Rapping. He invited me to go to Birmingham, Alabama. I had never been to the South. I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up in the Bronx. I live in New Jersey. I said, of course, I would love to come to Birmingham, Alabama and film. And I did. And I went and I spent some time with them and saw their training program. And that's really how it got started.
yes, and we should say that Jonathan Rapping is a man who's featured in your documentary, who runs what is now called Gideon's Promise, which helps young public defenders basically stay sane in a way.
Yeah, and
it was
stay
through
working.
that program that you met your main characters.
It was, and really, when I started making the film, I don't even know if it's fair to say I started making a film. I started filming, and I started thinking about the story, and I really was not focused on where it was going to go or how it was going to happen. I really felt driven to just kind of document what they were doing. And I thought, well, I'll document it. I came out of a news background where you go, you get the tape, and then you figure out what it's going to be. And that's kind of how so I didn't know if it was going to be a short piece or a web series. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I thought that they were just so compelling. I went to law school, and a lot of the lawyers of my class, which is out of 1993, weren't lawyers anymore. And then I went to Birmingham, and these young 23-year-old people were talking about the Constitution. And I thought, those are not lawyers you see all the time. And I thought they'd be really interesting. I was just curious about them, and I just was really compelled to follow that curiosity.
And ultimately, why did you feel that was such an important story to tell?
I practiced law for 5 years at a law firm, Baker and Hostetler in Washington, D.C., and then 2 years at ABC Television. And I didn't know anything about the criminal justice system. I knew what most people know, which is from Law and Order, or from my friends in Washington. A very common career path is to go to the U.S. Attorney's Office, go to the Justice Department. I did not. It was so foreign to me. The world that they lived in was so foreign to me. And I thought, I am a lawyer and a person who's interested in civil rights and activism, and I don't know what's happening. How could that be? So I really aimed this story at people like me who are not opposed to giving people their rights, but they really don't understand what's happening all around them.
And as you delved into it, you started seeing fissures and problems within the system that you wanted to bring to light as well, things that you didn't know about even as an attorney before you went in.
That was the most challenging piece, was recognizing that there are so many problems in the criminal justice system, how to tell a story that's accessible to people who are not lawyers, who don't want to become lawyers. And so fairly quickly, I decided if I follow these young people, the biggest question public defenders get asked is, how can you represent those people? And those people are people accused of committing crimes. And I thought, if I follow the public defenders and just focus on that question, that's a very accessible point of entry for anybody. Everyone's kind of curious, is how can you represent somebody who's a criminal? And then, so that was my goal, and that kind of became the story through line, is to follow them and see, how can you represent them? In the end, you're like, how can't you? But when you start out, I think that's the question that compels people to keep watching.
50 years after Gideon, with what you learned over 3 years, where does the public defense system stand right now? Where do you see the major problems?
There are so many. We're in Idaho, and the ACLU here will tell you that in Idaho, there was a 2010 report that Idaho has failed on every ABA recommended standard for public defenders. The caseloads are too high. They're 200 to 400% over the ABA recommended minimums, which are 150 cases. So to give you some perspective about that, when I was a lawyer, and any lawyer in private practice will tell you, if you're in a big firm, you deal with maybe 3-4 matters at a time. So if a public defender is dealing with 150, and that's the ABA standard, if you're dealing with twice that or 3 times that, there's literally no way.
There's the phrase, meet 'em,
plead
and
'em.
plead 'em.
That's right.
And as we see in your documentary,
That's
sometimes the clients get just a few moments with your attorney, and many of them plead rather than try and go to trial and everything.
That's right. In New Orleans,
plead to something that they may not have done.
Right. And this was hard going at times, and I wasn't always sure of what I was doing or that I was doing it right. And I just will never forget seeing somebody plead guilty to something I knew that they didn't do. And I just thought, I think like most people think, that no one would plead guilty. And when you plead guilty, you have to stand in front of a judge, look him or her in the eye and say, yes, I did this, knowing that that's going to result in you being handcuffed and sent to a 6x9 cell. That's a really difficult
Plus, you
thing
have that
to do.
felony on your record.
And then you're a felon.
And then you have all the collateral damage that it causes
That's right.
for the rest of your life.
That's right. So it is so, as Americans, I think one of our core shared values is fairness. From the time your children can speak, they're like, that's not fair. And that's kind of what we all think of in America is we're fair. We can all respond to that. And what I saw, which just really wasn't fair, it was like kind of deeply, deeply wrong.
It's a character-driven documentary, and honing it down, finding those characters must have been really interesting.
It was, and because I had the benefit to being at Gideon's Promise and being at the training session was I had 30 trial lawyers, most of them from the South. So it was like who not to pick. I mean, it was hard to narrow it down. So ultimately what happened is I asked people while I was there who might want to be followed. So that was kind of the first. And about, 8 people said, sure, you can follow us around. I don't think any of us had any idea what it was going to be. And then what happened was as I kind of got deeper into the story, and this is, a generalization, and like most generalizations is partly true, partly not, but there are some common characteristics of public defenders. You tend to get the warrior type who's like Travis, is just fighting, never met a fight he didn't want to have. Brandy tends to be the, I'm going to save everybody type. But I think what you see in the end is they each have some of those characteristics. Brandy ends up being a heck of a fighter, and Travis is also quite empathetic, even though he tries to just push the warrior part of himself. So I thought that they represented some kind of common characteristics of public defenders that I really admire, this drive and this fight, but also this empathy. So they stood out for me for those reasons.
And they make, or their caseload, as I recall, is about 150 clients at the same time.
Yeah, so, and it's...
and they don't get paid all that much.
They don't get paid very much.
What are we talking about, like...
So they it varies across the country. The range is probably $45,000 to, on the high end, $60,000, which are certainly not a bad salary, but you have these young people with 6 figures in educational debt. So if you have $110,000 in student loans, that's like a mortgage. So imagine having a mortgage and then not having a huge salary, being single and trying to support yourself. And that's really... what their financial condition ends up being. And
typically the reputation or the stereotype of public defenders is it's like the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, so we had, for a while, we'd get kind of like punchy in the edit room, and I always said, like, let's make a montage. My crew was always there, like, oh, another montage. But, all the names public defenders get called, public pretenders, prison deliverers, and, they know about those names, they joke about them, but they also can internalize some of that feeling. And so when you're alone, fighting for a client that nobody cares about, and you don't make any money, and people think you're bad at your job, all of those things together could overwhelm any of us. And so that, the idea that these people kept fighting was just, that's... how can you represent these people becomes how can you keep going with all of this against you? And that, I think, is what people are responding to, is they think, could I do that job? I probably couldn't.
So let's talk about a little bit about the logistics. You're filming some very sensitive subjects.
Yeah.
How did you get permission from the defendants and their families to film their case? I can imagine some of them saying, you know what, any more attention on me and I think it might irritate the judge or the prosecutor, and I don't want that.
You would think that, and I thought that. Everybody said yes right away. And I think people are so desperate to get any help that they're interested in maybe getting some attention. But the other thing is they trust their lawyers. And I was introduced to the clients through their lawyers. And so they all said, well, if she trusts you, then it's fine. So that ended up not being difficult at all.
And you have file a motion every time you needed to get into court to get
that
permission
was
to have a camera?
So with the defendants and filming them at home, that was actually pretty straightforward. Their parents were the 2 young people I ended up following extensively. In court, it's another matter because every court has its own rules. So that is ultimately the reason I didn't end up following two lawyers I wish you could see, Heather from Louisiana and Angel from Louisiana, who work in New Orleans Public Defenders, because New Orleans is one of the more restrictive courthouses. They tried to take my camera when I went in, which made me mad, and I'm calling my husband. He's like, "You're going to get arrested." New Orleans Public Defender System is funded by parking ticket revenues. So in one session, they didn't print the parking tickets, so they didn't have enough money, so they laid off the public defenders. So it shows you the priority that people's civil liberties are, people's actual physical liberty is given. So in New Orleans, it was really tense. They would not allow our cameras in. They finally allowed us to film in the hallway, and some of the prettier shots of the courtroom are actually in New Orleans, in the courthouses. But we had an armed guard and a press.
You didn't want to put that in the documentary.
Well, it didn't quite work,
yeah.
but it was really tense, and I thought, this is not America, where you can't sit in it is a public proceeding, and show what's actually happening. So in Georgia, on the other hand, which is a conservative state, and you would think I would have trouble, Judge Deal, his name is Judge Deal, who is the son of Nathan Deal, who's the governor, and so I read the rules. That's a good thing about being a lawyer, is I looked up the statute book and I said, well, as I read this, anybody can come in and petition to have a camera. It doesn't have to be a news organization. So I faxed in a motion. They also allow you to fax in a motion. And to my surprise, they said, we'll hear you. So I get down there and he says, we'll hear from Ms. Porter. And I thought, I didn't prepare for an oral argument. And the prosecutor opposed the cameras being in the courtroom. So, we had a little bit of a back and forth. But ultimately, he said it's important for people to see what happens. And so I'm very grateful to Judge Deal for allowing that, because I think it makes a big difference.
Your background as an attorney is in standards and practices within media.
Yeah.
So how did that translate into your ethical standards for making this?
Being a news standards and practices person, my job for ABC News was to not just read a script and say, is it factually and legally accurate? It was to say, are we actually getting the story right, and are we giving people their best shot and being fair? So it's quite subjective, but over time, I really developed a very strong desire to give people their best shot at whatever their opinion is, and to treat them the way I would want to be treated if I was interviewed. So where that played out in the documentary is there were times when I could have filmed somebody not looking their best, and I thought, that doesn't really serve the story. It'd be great gotcha moments, but it didn't serve the
Judge
story.
yawning or
a person sleeping, right, or da-da-da-da-da. And then the other decision that I made was the prosecutors across the board refused to do interviews. And so I thought, well, this isn't really a story about overzealous prosecutors or mean, horrible judges, although that would have been great because there are a lot of mean, horrible judges, not Judge Deal. And so I thought, I'm going to focus on the public defenders and I don't need to demonize the other members.
So we have attorneys that are overloaded in many instances, getting very little pay, very little training, and a lot of debt. And we have
pretty good job. Huh?
We have high bonds as well for some of these defendants. They can't meet the bond, so they sit.
Right.
That's one thing that I saw in your documentary. And mandatory minimum sentences.
Yeah.
So, you're looking at 10 years for armed robbery.
Mandatory
minimum.
That's right. Regardless of the
life.
amount. That's right.
So when you look at the situation, are there things that you think, for instance, Idaho might be looking at having a state system, which Colorado has,
right,
as opposed to county by county,
right?
Or
I think that there's
reforming mandatory minimums? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think all of those things are incredibly important. Having a state system, it has to be well run, but at least you'd have some consistent standards and fair allocation of resources. So what happens in a county by county system is you might have a well-funded county that's run well, and then a poor county that is not run well. And so, you shouldn't, the justice you get shouldn't depend on the border of where you live. It should be consistent. Bond reform, I think, is a huge area that is easily within our control and change. When you are facing tens of thousands of dollars in bond for a minor crime, for a poor person, that's a prison sentence. There's no way that a person making a minimum, wage of $10 an hour. One of the DeMontes Wright, who's featured in the documentary, his mother stuffs envelopes, and so she makes minimum wage doing that. So when his initial bond was $50,000, there's no way she could make that. $5,000 is completely beyond her reach.
So when you look at your film, would you call it a call to action film?
I hope so,
Because it's kind of a trend now of people picking an issue
where
they feel that there's some deficiencies.
Yeah.
Encouraging people to change that.
I am kind of an optimistic person, and I do think, and I've been really encouraged by the reaction to the film, where people just think, it's wrong. And
your characters got standing ovations at Sundance, I believe,
did.
Right? When the two attorneys, when they stood up.
They did, and one of the most gratifying moments for me was, so at our premiere, there's 450 people in the audience, and they do question and answer after the screening, and this young man stands up, he looked really young, and he said, "Thank you for doing the film. I'm going to show it to my parents because I've never been able to explain to them why I love my job." And he said, "Oh, I'm a public defender." And the audience was like, "Ah!" And he goes, "That doesn't happen ever." But I think that the film also, in addition to kind of shining a light on what's happening, it's also become a point of pride for the public defenders. Is, what? We're not all bad. Some of us are great lawyers, like the lawyers you see. And a lot of us go into this because we care about people who are, the most vulnerable people in our society. So that's been a really great.
So part of your call to action is to get people to think a little bit about.
Yes, kiss me, I'm a public defender.
Kiss me, I'm a public defender.
Yes,
is that what you
yeah,
said?
we're gonna get some T-shirts. So.
And ultimately, how did this affect you going through this?
I have 2 kids and a great husband who has a good job, and I would go and film children, 16-year-olds in prison, and I would come home to my nice life and think I would just be enraged, and I was really kind of difficult to deal with, to tell you the truth. And at one point, my little one was 4 or 5, and he asked for some expensive video game, and I was like, "Do you know people are in prison?" He's like, he's 4. And he was like burst into tears, and my husband was like, "You've got to calm." But it was very difficult I was so angry all the time. And then I just was like weary. I was so weary of seeing the same things, seeing somebody stuck in prison because they didn't have $2,000, and then you feel the guilt, like I should go get $2,000 and get this person out. And so actually with Brandy, and she said, "You cannot try and bail everybody out." Like, she's like, "You will burn out." So it was a big lesson. It was not something that which is why I think if you're making a documentary like this, you have to really love your topic and be willing to stay in it, because it does take a toll on you. It's nothing like what the public defenders go through, but it was not easy.
Well, your next documentary, Spies of Mississippi, is a historical documentary, but nevertheless could take a toll on you finding out what happened during this time period. This is a relatively, if not totally unheard of story of African Americans who spied for whites.
Yeah. So Spies of Mississippi was actually the first project I started developing, and it was another one of those things that just captured my attention, and I couldn't let it go. So in the 1950s, the state of Mississippi established what would become the largest spy operation in America. And it was all to stop civil rights. And it evolved from, they started this group called the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission, and which initially was a PR agency, so they made propaganda films. It's great footage. You know, they have like happy Black people being segregated and happy white people being segregated. And then they realized they needed informants. They wanted to keep track of the civil rights workers, so they recruited Black spies. First, it was prominent Blacks. So the person who was the editor of the most influential Black newspaper was spying. The person who was the head of the Black Baptist Convention, hundreds of thousands of Blacks looking to this group for leadership, was a spy. A superintendent of schools. So these were all middle class, you know, people with something to lose, and the state of Mississippi was paying them
to spy on civil rights activists.
To say who is doing civil rights activity. And then what they would do is kind of low level, but sometimes pretty nasty intimidation techniques. So if you were a civil rights activist, or you even went to a meeting, they put your license plate in the paper, so you might lose your job. You'd become a social outcast because people were afraid. So they started with that, and then as the civil rights activity ramps up, they hire these detective agencies. And it turns out the ACLU filed suit to open up these records. And when the records are released in the 1990s, there's hundreds of thousands of pages of spy reports. It turns out that tens of thousands of Mississippians and others were spied on. And it was just this big revelation. But what I was really interested in is, first of all, I think it fills in a great gap in the civil rights story, because the way that the story of civil rights is told so often is there's slavery, there's Martin Luther King, there's civil rights movement, and then we're free, you know, and then Obama gets elected. And really, it was a very difficult time, and I think a lot about what would I have done if I was a 40-year-old person with 2 kids and a job. Would I have marched and risked my life? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but working on this film, I think, allowed me to really, again, appreciate the heroism of the people who did that. They really sacrificed and risked everything, and I don't think we can say that enough.
Are some of the spies still alive?
They are. There are a few. We interviewed one. He denies he's a spy, but it's very clear. He did things like he sent his spy handlers his car license plate because he was undercover and he was driving some civil rights activists. So he said, "Here's my license plate. Don't have the police pull me over because I'm going to be with a white guy." So some of them are still, you know, and the reverberations are still happening in Jackson.
Well, this will be a film that we'll be able to see on PBS, yes?
Yes. It'll be, it is a partnership with Mississippi Public Broadcasting and Seattle Public Broadcasting, actually, and is being considered by Independent Lens. So I hope to have good news on that really soon.
Fabulous. Well, I look forward to that, and I know our viewers will as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
To talk with me today. You've been listening to Dawn Porter. She is a filmmaker. Her most recent film was Gideon's Army, and she will be next producing a film called Spies of Mississippi. I'm Marcia Franklin. Thanks for tuning in.
Presentation of dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho. Check out our website, become a friend on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter.